Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
If you're familiar with the UFC video game, then you're probably familiar with the mode that's called Stand and Bang. Well, I think that we saw the real life version of that this weekend main event, Kevin Holland versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. So much so, you find yourself in an advantageous situation. You end up falling on the ground, you're in top position. Now you can start working that jiu-jitsu black belt that you got if you're Kevin Holland, but you elect to say, stand up. Let's fight. Come on, man. We playing it like it's the video game right there. Folks, we're going to talk about the implications that distinct choice had. But I'll tell you what, we saw the reiteration. We saw the y'all must have forgot Wonderboy Thompson, close to 40 years old, but still fast and sharp as ever. Now, breaking it down with me, as always, is the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber himself, AJ, brother. What's happening, man? Coming as a striker yourself, this must have been a delight for you to watch. What are your thoughts, brother?
Derick, it was a fun-filled fight, man. Being able to see, and like you said, Stephen Thompson coming back in full form, looking like prime time Stephen Thompson. Even had the old school hair flip, man. Feeling like this was back in the elementary school days, bro. It was a great fight, especially like you said, whenever they're willing to stand and bang and not just jump right to the ground. As a striker, you know you gotta love it, especially for the main card fight to solidify another finish on a finishing night, man. It was a great night of fights. Derick, how'd you like this one?
This was pretty fantastic, man, especially because we had already said this is a pretty stacked fight night in terms of like no championships on the line or anything like that. And when you start off with a couple of finishes, you're like, ooh, this is going to be a banger. 5 decisions later, you're like, all right, man, I'm kind of falling asleep over here. And then they wake you back up. They say main card, 7 straight finishes. It's something pretty amazing to see. I'm sure this is historic in some capacity. I don't have a stat in front of me, but I'm sure that this is historic. Either way, lots to talk about, but I just wanted to just kind of like hammer down on that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson stuff, man. You know, his kickboxing record was something along the lines of about 57-0 before going professional in mixed martial arts. When he joined the UFC back in 2012, brother, 2012. That was 10 years ago, my man. And he's still over here doing it strong. He entered the UFC late, and this dude is still putting on these performances. Hook kicks, spinning wheel kicks, all types of craziness, man. You gotta love to see it. So, folks, we're gonna jump into the prop recaps, the bet recaps, all that fun stuff. But I am going to urge you, if you have not subscribed yet, you might as well subscribe right now. We're at above 450 subscribers. I want to get to at least 460 to 465 before this upcoming week. That way trajectory, it's the last month of the year. It's December. We want to put ourselves in a position to where we get 500 subscribers at the end of 2022. You already know what time it is, but folks, without any further ado, let's jump into these props. Let's get it. All right, my man, AJ, brother. Listen. This was an interesting night in terms of picks, and I'm sure that when the first 3 picks of the main event happened, you weren't feeling too hot, but you had a massive comeback effort with the last 3 right here. So let's talk about it, man. Before we kind of go in depth and do all of that fun stuff, like what stood out the most to you?
Man, you're right, Derick. When this fight night started off, I was a little worried, a little on the edge of my seat, especially seeing how things were unfolding. But what stood out to me most for the entire fight night, man, how willing and able everybody was to really stand on the line and go toe-to-toe with each other, man. There wasn't really a lot of, besides a couple of the fights in the prelims, there wasn't a lot of calculated effort. I mean, there's a lot of calculated, but there wasn't a lot of, being timid in there, which to me, man, that's where we get these 7 KOs. And you can see right off the top, folks, what Derick just had. He had, going off the first fights, man, looking good with those Eryk Anders, the Sergei Pavloviches, which, I mean, if you watch that fight, absolute domination. And even on the money line, looking good, man. Like you said, Derick, a little rough night for me, though, starting off, but I'm glad we finished strong. And RDA looking like an absolute killer out there, looking like a vintage RDA. It was a good night of fights, even though I was still over at that 500 mark.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, man, to finish off at 3-3 is not a bad spot at all. I mean, things could have been much worse. But let's talk about the Bladed Water Podcast consensus picks, right? When we're talking about the ones that me and AJ were both in agreement on, RDA, right? We got the big domination win. It does make sense now why he was a minus 500 favorite. We had Matheus Nicolau over Matt Schnell, got the finish win. Wasn't necessarily what I predicted, but it was still domination nonetheless. And then we had Jack Hermansson, and that's where we lost. And this is a situation where Jack Hermansson was cruising to a very stereotypical Joker type win until he wasn't. He decided he wanted to go and grapple with the grappler. You got calf sliced iced and then you got TKO'd. Not a great sight. In terms of the money line, yes, I got the win on the week. 4-2 for me, 3-3 for my man AJ, 3-3 on the prop bets for me. So a so-so night. 1-5 for my man AJ. Close but no cigar on that one. And then we did finish as a tie, 3-3 on the over and under. So with that being said, let's talk about a couple of these props. All right, brother. So listen. Dos Anjos submission. I want to talk about that really quickly. I had said, hey, RDA, arm triangle, same way he did it to Kevin Lee. Now, did that come to fruition? No, it didn't, AJ. But were you thinking about it a second when it started off immediately and he went straight to the arm triangle? Were you like, oh my God, it's happening?
Bro, like I'm saying, man, classic RDA. When I saw it go right there, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, oh man, this is back. This is killer mode RDA style.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're talking about the Pavlovich TKO. I mean, minus 130. You kind of got to just roll with the odds makers there. And the Anders TKO, man. So those are the ones that I hit on. So AJ, man, when we're talking about that Anders TKO, it's not too surprising given that Daukaus kind of struggles with these big athletes. But give me your take on that before we actually break it down.
Man, the big thing I was noticing is Daukaus didn't look like he could handle the power of Anders, and Anders showed up full Bangkok already. He was swinging, man, and the power differential was crazy. That was the biggest thing for me that stood out, man.
And absolutely, folks, I just want to remind you one more time, like I had said on the preview show, like having this experience, right? It wasn't anything MMA serious or anything like that, but like rolling with Eryk Anders, he's a monstrous human being. Like to fight at 205 pounds, to have that frame, and to fight a Kyle Daukaus, who at this point I'm kind of thinking, what kind of success could he have if he fought at 170 pounds instead of 185? Eryk Anders is not a man to be played with in terms of that power differential, and I think it showed on Saturday night. So with that being said, one more time, folks, this is the bet sheet right here, and then here we have our prop bets right here. So we vow to get better each and every single week. But folks, I do want to remind you what it is that we are fighting for here. So as you saw a little bit earlier, actually, let me bring it up just for the final tally. 140 and 80 on the night, or on the year, 137 and 83 is my man AJ. 3-pick differential. But AJ, I gotta ask you, man. I know you probably are dreaming at this point, man, saying like, I gotta take that belt home. Well, it's sitting right here, brother, fancy, underneath the tree, waiting for one of us to take that bad boy home, brother. So just remember, folks, the Bloody Water Podcast 2022 Undisputed Championship is on the line. That is what we are fighting for. And that's why you should subscribe, because we got real implications on the line. Now, AJ, without mincing any further words, let's talk about the main card. Let's get it, brother.
Have you seen that replay, buddy? Your head was bouncing around like a pinball machine.
Time for some main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ. All right, my man. So listen, Stephen Thompson, he looked phenomenal. He looked like a vintage Stephen Thompson, but there's only one reason why he looked like a vintage Stephen Thompson right here, brother. And the only reason that is because Kevin Holland allowed him to do that. Now, I told you, there is real issues along with like the favoritism that comes with Kevin Holland's style. That jumpy, herky-jerky, I'm taking big overextended leaps in. It either works to his advantage or it works to his detriment. And it actually did both in this fight here, AJ. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. Hand injury. That's the reason why this fight got stopped. Let's be completely honest. Yeah, Stephen Thompson was pouring it on him, but Kevin Holland probably broke his hand, something like that. The right hand, the moneymaker too. Do you think we would have saw a different fight if that injury didn't take place?
100%, Derek, especially with the way, again, another power differential is what we saw for this fight. The way that Kevin Holland was able to crack Stephen Thompson and it do serious damage and it really affect him, whereas Stephen Thompson, he'd hit him, and sure, he was laying it on, like you said, he was laying on the pressures, laying on the punches, the kicks, he's hitting him with all kinds of different stuff, but it wasn't affecting Stephen Thompson as much. So I think if Kevin Holland had that hand, man, we'd be talking a big different game right here. And I know it was very back and forth fight, but if you got that power, it is really, the same thing we're talking about that Eryk Anders, it really does make a big, big difference here. Do you think the hand came into play, Derek?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I definitely think that like that hand injury, especially because he said that it happened pretty much after the first round, and I didn't really see that, but when he said it happened after the first round, I was like, oh, okay. There was a sudden drop in output after like round 2 or round 3 where you're just like, hold on, what happened here? Like, did he hurt? I thought he hurt his foot or his knee or something like that, but he just stood back against the cage and he was just trying to like time him for that counter left hook. But Stephen Thompson's too sharp of a striker, too much of a sharp shooter for that to happen. So It's tough because I do think we would have saw a different fight, but at the same time, it's not, because this is my whole entire take on this. Kevin Holland, at this point, man, he's a fan favorite. We love him. Entertainment, right? He banked in $50K right here with this fight style. Even though he lost, he banked in $50K. That's what matters, I think, to him at this point. But this is another reason why you cannot back him in serious competition against the upper echelon that the UFC has to offer, because you just never know if you're going to get the all-in Kevin Holland or if you're going to get the playful Kevin Holland. Now, AJ, let me remind you, when he fought Cowboy Oliveira, right? That was the all-in Kevin Holland. That was serious. We're kicking ass and taking names. I'm going to beat this boy's ass, right? Stephen Thompson, you find yourself in top control. You have a jiu-jitsu black belt. You can take advantage of it, and you choose to stand up, which inevitably leads to you later getting pieced up on the feet. I mean, if revisionist history, brother, do you think he regrets this decision, or do you think that's just the fight game and this is the type of martial artist I am? I wanted to test myself.
I think it's a little more of the latter there, Derick. I think it's a little more of maybe not even so much of test yourself, but have that like ego and pride. Because at the beginning, man, at the press conference, you're saying no one's shooting here. This is a standing battle. If you're the first one to shoot, you know it doesn't play the best of look, especially for someone who's as vocal and as you know, boisterous and flamboyant as Kevin Holland. He's out there talking. So if you go back on your game, you're folding over. So you have to double down. You have to, if you get the takedown, you have to let him up, in my opinion anyway, especially if you're talking the big striker game. You know, if you're in there and you're kind of playing that, oh, no, you know, we're going to be fighting, you know, standing battle all day long, and the first thing you do is shoot. Then I think you can go with that was a ploy. You're playing around a little bit. But I think at this point, this is game, bro. This is on game all day long.
And I hear you from the fan perspective, right? But from the I want to be a champion perspective, I don't hear you whatsoever. And the reason why is because the press conference is where gamesmanship is for. It's like the whole entire point. It's psychological manipulation, right? Oh, yeah, we're just going to stand and bang. It didn't stop Kevin Holland after the hand injury in late round three from shooting, not successfully, but he still shot, right? And then even Stephen Thompson said in the post-fight presser, he was all like, I saw Holland started to shoot, and he was like, oh, what happened, bro? I thought we weren't shooting. He was like, man, I got to do what I got to do. That's the reality of the situation. You got to do what you got to do. That didn't stop RDA from shooting in on Bryan Barberena and be like, I'm just going to take the win. Now, if you're a Kevin Holland, let me take a peek right here. If you're a Kevin Holland, you're coming off of back-to-back losses. You lost to Khamzat Chimaev, you lost to Wonderboy Thompson after 2 wins and a no contest to Kyle Daukaus after a bad stretch of losses there. So I think it's clear. Let's talk about the trajectory right here moving forward. If you're a Kevin Holland, you came back from retirement right here. You pretty much only want the big money fights. Championship aspirations is pretty much out the window. I mean, in what capacity does he win here, AJ?
Yeah, in what capacity, man? It's hard because I feel like Kevin Holland is really on the trajectory to become just a star, you know, a money fighter, just somebody you're signing on that's going to know he's going to provide some entertainment, going to provide some money back to you, and going to be able to set up his next fight. Other than that, though, I mean, title aspirations and 170, I don't really know, man. I don't really see it, especially with how good of the wrestlers are at the top upper echelon of that division. I don't really see gold around in the future. Do you, Derick?
No, not for Kevin Holland, but I do see for Stephen Thompson if he's chasing. I don't really see it for Stephen Thompson either, man, because you know, while you do get the fun striker fight right here, they're not just going to keep throwing strikers at him. If you want to be a champion in that division, you have to fight wrestlers, and I just don't see it for either one of these gentlemen. But I love the fun fight, man. So taking it away from a championship perspective, looking at just pure fun. I mean, come on, bro. This is one of the fight of the year candidates. Am I right?
Oh, 100%, Derick, 100%. This is this just had fight of the year makings over it from the get-go. And if we can keep doing this, and I think this is where Kevin Holland's career is headed, more of these fun, entertaining money fights, if you will.
100%. And with that being said, let's move on to the co-main event, where we have a former champion who I do believe, man, he is coming for that belt. He wants it bad, you know what I mean? He wants to do whatever he can do to put himself in that position. Now, will he get it on that second run? I'm not too sure, but I'll tell you what, man, he looked good in his return to welterweight against Bryan Barberena. Rafael Dos Anjos, man, from the get-go, we were wondering, why is he such a massive favorite? Why are people discounting Bryan Barberena? But I think that the thing that we fail to remember is that Bryan Barberena shines best when he's put in what situation? When he's put in these barn burners, when he's put in these back-and-forth wars. Well, if you're RDA with championship experience, you say, no, we're not doing any of that wars. I'm going to take you down, and I'm going to submit you because I know that's my clearest path to victory. Right here, this was pure domination. I honestly don't have too much to say about it, but what are your thoughts on the fight, AJ?
Man, I don't have too much to say at all besides this was classic RDA, man. Rafael Dos Anjos just absolutely putting the pressure to you, get back to his roots, getting the takedown, submitting you. This is good to see, man. I mean, it was there's a while where RDA was back and forth, and then coming out with the Conor McGregor call out, bringing up old school beef, especially because Conor is in 170 as well. I mean, we're gonna see how Rafael Dos Anjos handles the quote unquote juice, but. Man, well, I was very excited and very happy to see how RDA performed for this fight, especially as a big RDA fan, man. That was the biggest takeaway. Like I said, not really much I can take away from the whole fight besides great performance. And that's about it, man.
Why do you think that plus 325 was sitting there for the submission? I said it was juicy when we talked about it last, man. But now looking back at it, it's almost like that should have been like a plus 100, 110, 150 or something like that. Why do you think that it was such a long shot? Not necessarily a long shot, but why do you think that like the decision was so much heavier than the submission?
I think it's because of the way RDA has been performing lately. Mm-hmm. He's a lot more of a either a decision or a knockout kind of a fighter. That's what a lot of people when they hear RDA, that's what they think. He's come for your head, knocking you out, or it's going to be a long drawn out fight. Not many people know that this dude is a legit submission artist, and I think that's why the plus 325 right there.
Absolutely, man. And I almost felt like he said after the fight, he came up to him and was like, I'm sorry I had to do this to you, bro, but I had to get the win. You know what I mean? Like when you just dominate. And it's funny because when I was watching that fight, I was watching it with my girl and I was just like, man, I know that feeling of when somebody is on top of you and you just can't escape and you can't move and you move to another position and you're in the worst spot. And then finally he put that rear naked choke and it was on the chin. And I was like, he's safe for now. But if that thing gets cranked in a little bit longer, it's game over. Rafael Dos Anjos, man. Let's talk about this really quickly and then we'll move on. Obviously, he did have that Conor McGregor call out, but that's kind of a juxtaposition, right? It's like you can't be like, I'm coming for the belt, but hey, let me fight Conor McGregor. It's like you either take the money path or you take the championship path. The championship path has far less glamour, glitz, and dignity, I believe. The money path is much more big fights, popularity, talk shit. How can he do both at the same time?
I mean, he really can't, Derick. You either got to choose red panty night or you got to go with the gold. And personally, I think RDA has a little bit better of an opportunity, or a little bit, I guess, like the storyline has been written for him to go for red panty night, really start making these money fights. Because if you're looking for gold at 170, you got Colby, you got Kamaru, you got Leon, they got a lot of fighters up there that are very, very difficult to get past. I see him as a red panty night kind of fighter. But, I mean, to your point, Derick, RDA has been focusing on nothing but gold, and he's been fighting that kind of way. So hopefully I eat my words there a little bit and we see RDA going for the gold. But I don't know. What do you think is more op for him?
I think the money fights are probably the better situation for him. Late stage of your career, you moved back to Brazil. At this point, if you're a little bit older, in your career ultimately, right? If you don't get the gold, at least retire on top of some money. You know what I'm saying? With like those big checks. And Conor McGregor is the path to do that. So if he could get that fight, I mean, that'd be a tough fight for McGregor to win, man. RDA, just go straight to the grappling. We'll see. It'll be interesting. All right, man. Let's move on to, This was just a domination bout by Matheus Nicolau, man. I said it in the last one. Lateral movement, lull you to sleep, hit you with a counter, and that's basically the game plan. Now, I was a little shocked to see that he was able to just put Schnell out on his feet multiple times. I almost felt like I was watching Wonderboy Thompson, the way that he was just waiting back, straight shot, counter blitz, right? And he would just blitz in on Matt Schnell, and he would just give him the business right there. So my question to you right here, man, for a Matt Schnell coming off of such a massive comeback, took 3 of your cat lives, victory against Suma Derji, to immediately, first off, you have trouble making weight. Second off, you basically just get dropped multiple times by Matheus Nicolau. It almost was just a one-sided beatdown. What do you take away from this if you're Matt Schnell? Like, where does he move forward?
Man, this is a real rough one for Matt Schnell because, like you said, Derick, you took a lot of those years, those fight life years off of your last fight and in this fight, and I don't really see that kind of style changing too much for Matt Schnell, unfortunately. I think this guy performs best when he's in a barn burn, kind of like that Bryan Barberena style of fighter. But where do I see him going next, man? I think, unfortunately, for Matt Schnell, and I kind of hope his trajectory will change a little bit, but I see him being one of those journeymen, one of those, again, a Bryan Barberena kind of fighter, not necessarily a Robbie Lawler, but Robbie Lawler now, a kind of fighter who's going to be around for a while, just in the barn burners, just in the crazy style of matchups, almost like a Clay Guida-esque, something kind of like that, where hopefully he's around for a long time. Hopefully not too brain damaged, but this is going to be bringing some wars. So we're going to be seeing Matt Schnell, and even showing the willingness to chop off all your hair to make weight instead of just taking the penalty, whichever way it comes from the commission. I mean, it shows to the UFC that you're willing to be a company man. You're willing to put the work in, even if you're close and you didn't, all there's X's and Y's. But at least to me, it shows that Matt Schnell is willing to be in the prime time highlight spots and show up, not just say he's going to be there, but actually willing to put down a crazy style of fight, win or loss.
Absolutely. Well, first, put some respect on my man, Clay Guida's name, all right? He picked up a win this weekend, you feel me? He a journeyman, but he's still making it happen. But I agree. I do think Matt Schnell has ultimate confidence in himself, and you got to respect that, right? Because he's willing to do what he has to do to put himself in a position to win. Now, here's the problem that I wanted to talk about going back to the Sumudaerji fight. I was listening to a podcast, Lex Friedman podcast. Shout out to Lex, man. Always has fantastic podcasts there. But he interviewed one of the greatest jiu-jitsu athletes of all time, Roger Gracie. And one thing that they talked about a lot over there is your resistance, ultimately, right? So the more times in jiu-jitsu you go to sleep, your resistance will ultimately drop. It'll take a little bit less for you to go to sleep for a blood choke or whatever the case may be. Same thing applies to MMA. More times you get knocked out, you get chinny, right? It's a little easier to get dropped, but get the button pushed. Do you think there's a correlation with the damage he took in the Sumudaerji fight to just immediately getting dropped multiple times in this fight? Like, are you making that immediate correlation?
I am, especially with how detrimental the Sumudaerji fight was. Yeah, he got the win, and yeah, he picked up a very big, a crowd bump from that one. But man, getting stunned 4, 5, 6 times like that is just not good for you. We even said it in that fight, on the post fight for that one, man. He woke up in the locker room asking what happened, who won. That's never a good look. But I mean, as bad as that is for his mental health and and cognition and all that, man, he's going to be making a lot of money from it. So is it a foolhardy move to do that in the fight game? I don't know. What do you think, Derick?
I think it's tough, man, because at the end of the day, you have no choice but to get back in there and fight, right? But at the same time, it's just like, how about we take a different approach? Nicolau is just a tough matchup, bro. It's just a tough matchup because he's going to frustrate you. He's going to make you come in and chase the fight. And as soon as you do that, he's going to take advantage. And you saw he brought out the sword. He did the bow, like real martial artist style right there, man. So shout out to Matheus Nicolau. The last thing that I want to touch on for Nicolau, 6-fight win streak, right? First knockout win first finish win since 2015, man, in his UFC debut. He's in a position right now where he just fought out his contract. He just finished that contract with a TKO. Do you think the UFC re-signs him?
100%, man. I think they see a star in the rise for Nicolau, and we're going to be seeing a lot of him around. Do you think so?
I think that they'll re-sign him, man, but I don't think that it will be as lucrative as one may imagine. You get one finish in your last 6 fights, more than 6 fights, honestly. It's just like, all right, bro, come on, man. You're going to have to bring something else to the table. Let's just say this, man. He takes all the hype trains and he derails them. The Manel Kops of the world, David Dvorak, Tim Elliott, you know what I mean? Clearly, Matt Schnell. So, big win by Matheus Nicolau. And you got to love the Hanya mask tattoo on his back right there. All right, man. Quick work right here. The heavyweights, they got into the cage. Tai Tuivasa, he came out to the Nelly Furtado, you know what I mean, intro song. Like, the crowd, he has the crowd in the palm of his hands at all times. Sergei Pavlovich comes in, he gets booed, but now people are calling him the White Francis Ngannou because he walks forward, he blitzes you, and you just don't recover from these shots, man. And as soon as he started landing on Tai Tuivasa, it was over. Now, here's my argument for Sergei Pavlovich now. I think I'm starting to understand, and I'm glad that I picked with my mind here instead of my heart, because I told you, everybody, I wanted to pick Tuivasa, but I'm starting to understand here. Sergei Pavlovich is an interesting combination of both power and speed. And when you match him up with these guys who are willing to trade, willing to bang like a Tai Tuivasa all he's going to do is he's going to walk you down Muay Thai style, wait for that opening, feint, wait for that opening, crack you with the big one, and as soon as he smells that blood in the water, he just goes relentless mode, but not sticking his chin out there ready to get cracked. He's still maintaining distance, throwing big bombs, slipping the big punches to Tuivasa, and just getting his work done a little bit further at range than staying in the pocket. And it's working, man. He's beating everybody. He's starching people first round after first round after first round. And if I take a peek at it right now, because he did log 2 knockdowns against Tai Tuivasa, his last, sheesh, bro. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. His last 6 fights have ended in the first round, and he has won. Actually, more than that. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of his last fights have ended in the first round. He's won 6 of them. I mean, come on, bro. The only person he lost to was Alistair Overeem, and that's, you know, come on, bro. That's a massive man right there. So, I mean, Tai Tuivasa, very down on himself in this bout, but what could he have done different? I mean, this was almost like the matchup that was made perfectly for Pavlovich.
I think the only thing you could have done a little differently is just not get tagged first. I think in this one, and like you said, Derek, one of the big things that impressed me most about Pavlovich is, yes, he was going berserk mode, throwing punches nonstop once he smelled a little bit of blood in that water, but he was staying technical and flawless with it, man, because he was throwing punches straight down the pipe, had great head movement, seeing the punches coming from Tuivasa, dipping up out of the way, ducking up out of the way, and then coming back with some fluid punches right down the pipe. Very, very impressive for Pavlovich. But what could Tuivasa have done? Because this is a very hard matchup, man. Pavlovich is going to be a monster for anyone in the division. But if you can avoid that first onslaught, that first punch, that first one that cracks you when you wake up like, oh shit, what hit me? And then this dude's in your face. If you can avoid that and you be the first one to hit him, then I think we're going to be able to see something a little different from Pavlovich. A little bit more of a worry of, fighting off your back, kind of like, oh shit, like he hit me first. Like, oh no, like what am I going to do? That kind of instinct kind of kicks in. That's where I think we're going to see some success when you're fighting Pavlovich. Other than that, man, this guy is a mix of the new breed we've been talking about, that light kind of agile style, but also has the power to boot. This Russian's going to be a very, very big problem to deal with, man.
And you know what? The common theme that I'm seeing here is that most people are saying, and this is most people, right? This is the Twitter sphere and all that. People are saying that there's literally only like 2 or 3 heavyweights who, and this is what Kenny Florian said, there's only 2 or 3 heavyweights right now on the roster who don't just go in the cage and throw dice and just fucking, you know what I mean, go after it. Like there's only like 3 calculated heavyweights. One would be Cyril Gane, another one would be Sergei Pavlovich, and then the last one would be, I mean, I don't know if you can really count Ngannou, because Ngannou, a lot of his style really is that I'm just going to take your head off with the big shot, but there's got to be at least one more out there. But that's the whole entire point. Yeah, maybe Curtis Blades, right? But that's what it comes down to, man. Pavlovich is going to be a monster. You beat Abdurakhimov, you beat Lewis, you beat Tuivasa. At this point, you have nobody left to fight but the top 3. There's nobody left in the division for you to fight that makes sense. Looking for fantastic things moving ahead for Pavlovich. And at this point, people are wondering, what does Pavlovich versus Cyril Gane look like? And I'm not going to lie to you here, AJ. The way that Tai Tuivasa was able to tag Cyril Gane makes me kind of feel like Pavlovich could get the win on Gane. No matter how skilled he is, you have to be perfect for 5 minutes if you're Cyril Gane. If you're Sergei Pavlovich, you got to land 1. And that's always the tail of the tape in heavyweight division right here. You got anything else, or you want to move on to the next one?
I think the only thing I think about that matchup, man, is the foot movement that Cyril Gane possesses might be a problem for Pavlovich. Mm-hmm. So we might only see a second round fight instead of a first round finish.
Only a round extra, no big deal. But all right, man, shout out to Sergei Pavlovich right here. Tai Tuivasa will be back, but I do think that Tai Tuivasa is along that same cloth of like fun fight, you know what I mean? Fun money fights and all that. Championship aspirations, just not sure at this point. Now talk about a comeback right here, bro. First off, you have Jack Hermansson. You got to feel terrible for. Number 8 in his division. He goes in and he's supposed to be slated to fight a monster in Derick Brunson, right? Derick Brunson pulls out. Roman Dolidze says, hey, short notice, I'll take the fight. It is what it is. So then you put yourself in a position where you say, okay, all right, well, I got this guy. I mean, southpaw, it's not too much of a different matchup. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to see what I can get done. And you're doing it, man. But you get overzealous. And when you get overzealous as a Jack Hermansson, that means you deviate from the game plan of lateral movement, stick them, stick and go, stick and move, stick and move, stick and move, and then just basically frustrate them with your striking. Avoid the big shot. Now, Roman Dolidze excels most because what does he say, AJ? He says, hey, man, at heart, I'm a world championship fucking grappler who can also knock people out, right? Don't forget about that. And Jack Hermansson, I feel like out of pride and ego, says as a wrestler, even though he already saw that he was not the supreme grappler early on in the fight, as a wrestler, I'm going to take you down. And he took him down, and he had a little bit of success, had to fend off some triangles and some stuff like that, got swept nasty in the first round. But you put yourself in a position where you get your foot caught in between those legs, you get wrapped up after an inverted triangle, put into a calf slicer. You could see the grimace on the face. You could see the, oh my God, because I'll tell you, those calf slicers are horrendous. You're going to be walking with a limp for a week after that. But then you get your face beat in, and you can't move because your calf isn't also in agony. I mean, Roman Dolidze, man, talk about a new player in the middleweight top 10. And talk about a guy here, AJ, who, I mean, let's play matchmaker. Alex Paeta, Roman Dolidze. who gets the job done?
I mean, I think Paeta, just because he's going to be crazy long and big, but if Dolidze can get in there, man, and really put some work, Dolidze, what I like about him, he has the power, also with the skill of the grappling that can get things done. So if he's in there and able to manhandle Paeta or anyone really, they're in for quite a surprise, because like we saw in Jack Hermansson's face, he had an oh shit moment where he's like, oh, I'm actually getting tossed around. Oh shit.
That's the thing. Well, let me ask you, man, why are these fighters doing this? Why are you seeing that you're not having the most success, but you're still going to go in there and test the waters anyways? Like, you're deviating from the game plan that could have led you not to an easy win, but to a definitive win. You went into the danger zone and you got caught. And Jack Hermansson, it's as simple as that. You got caught. You know what I mean? I don't think you could chalk it up to anything else. So what do you think?
Man, I think it has to be pure ego. There's no other reason besides it, especially because, in the back, they're talking game plan all day long. Stay away from whatever X, Y, and Z that the other guy has. And you go in there and you think, fuck it, I'm a bigger man. I'm a better man. I could go in there and beat his ass at what he's best at. And then you get calf sliced and punched in the face a couple of times. It's a rough one, but I think it has to be the ego. I don't really see any other alibi. What about you, Derek?
No, I don't see anything else, man. Like Jack Hermansson, like I said, he was literally, the game plan was working to perfection until he decided he wanted to go and wrestle with him again. So the question becomes, okay, Roman Dolidze instantly jumps into that top 10, right? Daniel Cormier is like, now you're in the top 15. Roman said, hey, top 10, buddy. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at. It pays to be ready and to not fly back to Georgia after your win and to stay in Vegas, right? So where do we put a Roman Dolidze now? We're gonna talk about that more in the rankings review a little bit later, but I guess the real question is for Jack Hermansson, where does he go? Because this was a definitive loss. It turned out to be like, it could have been just like, you got caught to this turned out to be a pretty fucking definitive loss. So you jump back a couple of spots, probably outside of the top 10. Championship aspirations for Jack Hermansson were very high many a year ago. Now, at this point, you got to wonder, journeyman, do we still have a path back to the title? What do you think?
Journeyman, it's going to be a very long and laborious path back to the title for the Joker. I mean, there was a time where he was, I forget if he was fighting Cannonier or it was Brunson or it was somebody, where we were talking that the Joker was going to be the one to dethrone Izzy. This guy was going to be the one to come in and really take Izzy down. But now looking at it, he was on Tapology. He was number 8, going to be dropping down, like you said, out of the top 10. I think it's going to be a very long and hard road to toll for Hermansson coming forward. And in fact, looking at these top 10 killers, I don't really see an interesting matchup unless some really things start shaking around and we really see some movement from this top 10, because a lot of these guys are already paired up. So for Hermansson, it's going to be a very, very hard road, unless he can get that Derek Brunson fight back and really start making some moves that way. But to that point, this is also Derek Brunson's season. So this is going to be very interesting to see how this whole 185-pound division folds out.
And it makes you wonder, should he have pulled maybe a Jack Hermansson? Should he have pulled maybe a Glover Teixeira and been like, nah, I'm not going to take this new opponent. Just schedule me for another bout. It's a little bit too different. I think he only took it because he's like, oh, well, he's a southpaw too. He likes to grapple too. Should be the same. Derek Brunson and Roman Dolidze, two completely different styles. Big win by Roman Dolidze. Like I said, we're going to talk about him a little bit more in a second. All right, now, your boy, Eryk Anders, he got the job done, bro. And I don't want to be too biased here because I did tell you guys all going into this, I was a little biased in favor of Eryk Anders. But the biggest thing that I saw in terms of the exploitation was Kyle Daukaus just has not been dealing with supreme athletes very well, big, powerful athletes. I'm not saying his jiu-jitsu isn't fantastic. Even his striking was looking crispy in the beginning, bro. I was like, oh, you have been training with your brother. Like, y'all been getting after it. Okay. But as soon as you get into those clinch situations, as soon as you try to force the fight to the ground, it becomes a little difficult when you got a behemoth like Eryk Anders on top of you sprawling, you know what I mean? Those hips are really just like, fending off the takedown. Now, do you think that Kyle Daukaus could have had maybe a little more success if he didn't try to shoot and he just tried to stick to I'm just going to outpoint you with punches and kicks and all that?
I think he could have, especially because he was a longer, taller fighter in there. Keep Anders at bay with some kicks, some jabs, really get him frustrated and not thinking clearly as far as the game plan. I think that would have been a little bit better of a route. I mean, we saw what happened once they decided to take this fight to the ground. Was not a good look, especially because of the power differential. And that's what I'm going to keep coming back to for this fight, man. That was the biggest thing to me. Any position they were in, whether it was the clinch, even in the punches and the kicks, as well as on the ground game, man, Anders was just so much stronger than Daukaus. I think and you said this in the beginning, Derek, I think it would benefit Daukaus very much to go down to 170. He'd be even taller, even bigger than everybody else. Sure, it's going to be a lot of a weight cut for the man, but you're not going to have to deal with behemoths like Eryk Anders and the rest of the 185-pound crew, because it was a very noticeable difference right there for Daukaus. And yeah, sure, he have been a little bit different if he was to keep this one on the feet. Yeah, but to that point, Anders still has power, man. You get caught with one of these big dudes, it's a lot harder of a fight for Daukaus, especially because he doesn't wear the power well. He looks like he gets folded, which is a very bad look. And I don't know. What do you think, Derek? Do you think he's going to benefit from going down to 170? Or does Daukaus just need to thicken up a little bit and really start making that 185-pound weight class?
Well, the question really becomes, can he make 170, right? Because if you go back to his amateur days, he fought at 205 and 265, bro. Like, he fought with the big boy. You could tell, like, he's like his brother, right? Where he's shedding that weight right now. So I think that if you stick discipline to the diet and all that, and you can really, like, turn into a pure athlete lifestyle to go down to 170, I think it could be very beneficial. You do have to wonder, though, because when he's getting hit with these shots, man, he's getting dropped. Same thing with the Matt Schnell. Are you just starting to wear it a little bit, right? Is it a little easier? And then at 170 pounds, we got a bunch of these wrestlers, but his jiu-jitsu is fantastic. So it would be interesting. He's already silly long for the division at 185. For 170, he would have some Kevin Holland type, you know what I mean, measurables. But you're right, man. Eryk Anders, the power was evident. I do think, though, man, with Anders, even though the power was there, the speed difference was very evident. Daukaus was so much faster, right? So the thing that really interested me is that Daukaus would sit down to his guard and Anders would not go in there and participate in that. So clearly Daukaus' jiu-jitsu, you have to find a different way to start attacking that, right? Like I don't know. It's tough. Would you want a guy like Anders on top of you while you're trying to play guard? And you know what I mean? No, you don't. You don't want to get your face. That's ultimately how he lost the fight. You got your face smashed in like that. He said it on Twitter after the fight, man. He said, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. I've been the nail more often. I do think that we will see a long, prosperous career for Kyle Daukaus, but we just have to figure out, are you a 185er? Are you a 170er? Not a 205er, clearly, but we'll see. For Eryk Anders, your first finish since 2019, man, where do we go from here? He said he was coming off of one of the lowest points of his career. This win will definitely help you get back on track. So where do we go if you're Eryk Anders?
Man, this is a big win for Eryk Anders going forward, man. And for somebody who really up and down in the eyes of the fans as well as the people, but he's been getting some work in. Where do we go for Eryk Anders? I think we throw him another 15 to 20 rank. I was trying to look up his Tapology rankings, and it's literally not even a number by his name. I think it's just the page is being updated. That's why on Tapology right now. But I think that top 20, that top 15 range, it's going to be a good look for Eryk Anders, especially if we can get him a little bit more of a grappling guy as well, so we can see how that power works. You know, we know he has the kicks, we know he has the punches, we know he can get things done. He's been training a little bit more towards that full, well-rounded MMA style. Now, if we can give him somebody a little bit more wrestling oriented, another big guy, another big powerful guy, I think we're going to start to see how Eryk Anders has really started to come into his own as far as a fighter. And then we can really start talking about title aspirations right there. Because once we see him handle the multitude of different kinds of fighters, then we can really start thinking about this guy for gold. What do you think?
I'm a big fan of Eryk Anders, brother, but gold right now at this stage of the career, I just think that's a little, I think there's a lot of players in line for that right now, and I think that Anders has to put a couple of more wins together to be talking about gold. But I do think at the stage of the career, you're a fun fighter, man. Put on these fights, put together a win streak, and then let's talk about titles. But let's talk our way into the top 15 first. You know what I mean? So slow and steady wins the race, but I do think Eryk Anders will have no problem finding his own, especially you know what I mean, when we can solidify a weight class, because he was going up and down between 205 and 185. So let's just solidify the weight class and then move forward. Fantastic performance. That's really the key right here. And with that being said, that will conclude our main card recap. Now, folks, just for your transparency, right, there was another bout added to the main card at the last second due to time constraints, 7-fight main card, which is pretty fantastic. We're going to count it as a prelim. We didn't talk about it in the preview show. So with that being said, let's talk about it. All right, my man. Prelim Pourover. Lots of fun ones on this one. And there's a couple of them that I want to talk about. I guess let's talk about a couple of the Legends tour that we had over here, man. The Legends came out to play today, man, or this weekend. Clay Guida, Scott Holtzman, man. Scott Holtzman, a man that you could easily mistake as a 25 to 29-year-old, you know what I mean? A man who's looking just sharp and prime and young and fit. Decided this was his last MMA fight that he would have. And unfortunately, you get matched up with the Carpenter. You get matched up with Clay Guida, a man who does not stop. A man who got awarded a split decision victory, though a lot of people would argue that Holtzman should have won the fight. Simply because you can control somebody, but if you don't do any damage, what does it mean? You know, I think this is an everlasting debate everybody is having, but ultimately, Clay Guida gets awarded the victory. What do you make of it? Both the Scott Holtzman retirement and also the Clay Guida victory at this stage of his career. And you're muted, brother. You're muted. You still muted, brother. You still muted.
If you can't hear me, they're doing a little construction, so I'm trying to keep the mute as best as possible. No, but to start with the Clay Guida question, man, I think this is a big win for Clay. You know, he's this is gonna be just propelling the career even more, and yeah, still solidifying him as a gatekeeper. But that's Clay Guida, man. This dude is down to fight whoever, whenever. And as much as like I said, it's a big win. It's not necessarily like this isn't going to make or break him and get him into gold territory or anything like that. But this is one of the ones still solidifying, letting you know you can't trifle around with these dudes, man. These guys that are here and have been in the game for quite a long time. You can't show up unready. You got to be ready for anything and everything that's going to be thrown at you. And for the Scott Holtzman retirement, man, it came at a weird point to me. Very interesting. Like I as much as I like seeing fighters, you know, go and prosper in their career, I also like seeing fighters take themselves out when it's appropriate, you know, save their life and save their mentality and save their, you know, their brain health and get going forward. But to me, for Holtzman, I don't necessarily sure, I get it. I see it. You know, hot sauce coming out, doing your thing. You're 39 years old. You've been fighting for a long time, you know, fighting since 2012. So 10 years, 0-3 in your last, 2-3 in your last 5. I just don't really see like the milestone, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You know, like I feel like there needs to be a denouement of why you're retiring and really either you're fighting and going to be a journeyman that no one remembers, or you're going to fight and make a name for yourself and then you retire. I just don't really see where the push was for the retirement, Derick, if you will, more so than like just health-wise. Do you see why he retired, or is this shocking to you as it is to me?
Not too shocking, man. You're 40 years old. If you're not going to win a championship, I mean, at a certain point, you have to be realistic about your aspirations, right? I mean, it's like the, and it's not the same equation, right? But it's like the dude who's like, I played basketball all through high school and college, and then you come to your senior year of college, and you know you're not going to go pro. You're going to keep playing basketball? You're going to try to go overseas and all that? Or you're going to be like, let me move on with the next stage of, you know what I mean, my career. So that's just where I say, at a certain point, you have to become realistic. He fought in front of his kid. You lost. I mean, it's rough, but you also lost 2 back-to-back against some savages like Beneil Dariush and Matheus Nicolau. So, I mean, come on, bro. You know, shout out to Scott Holtzman. You do feel bad because there were so many fights on this card and it was running low on time. They did not give him the opportunity to speak in front of people or really show his retirement stuff too well. So you got to feel for him, but happy retirement to a Scott Holtzman. Now, the next fight that I want to talk about was my sleeper, Jonathan JSP Pierce versus Darren the Damage Elkins. And the thing that you got to talk about here is that Darren Elkins had some damage put on him. JSP basically worked him domination style for 3 rounds. I called it a sleeper. I still feel like it was a sleeper. It was a very fun fight. But at the end of the day, JSP is the real deal, man. You can't deny him anymore. I said this is the master versus the apprentice, and the apprentice beat the shit out of the master ultimately right here, man. The Damage, always a loved one in our hearts, and we know it's not a true Damage fight until you see him bloodied up. But when you have concerns for long-term health, you have to start having the conversation here for a Darren Elkins. Very game, 27-11 in his career. But, I mean, come on, bro. After that bad stretch of losses, the 4 fights in a row, Volkanovski, Ricardo Lamas, Ryan Hall, Nate Landwehr, put up a couple good wins, and then you get knocked out by Swanson, and then you get beat up by JSP. I mean, at this point, my question to you, man, big win by JSP. We know where he's going to move forward in his career. Is it about that time for Darren Elkins to start wrapping it up?
It's looking like it, Derick. It's looking like it, especially when you just get clipped a little bit and you start bleeding real heavy. I mean, it's another one of those brain damage issues, man. I think it is time for the damage, especially you've been fighting since 2007, brother, and having wars since 2007. So I think it's about that time. And what's nice about the damage is people have come to respect who he is and his fight style. So this is another one where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, we understand, bro. Let's get it going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I like the take there. Now, let's talk about the Legends Tour, the last two. Michael Johnson and Angela Hill both got respective victories over Mark Chikasi and Emily Ducote. And the real storyline that we have here, man, is that, like, you cannot count these legends out. You cannot count the old school veteran out, especially when it comes down to just cage experience and ring generalship. And Angela Hill, in a true strikers contest, I said, give her a striker, right? She said all these grapplers, you give her a striker, she feasted on her just like Wonderboy did on Holland. Michael Johnson, he was able to actually use the sprawl to make it a striking bout. And what happens when, that happens? He gets the job done. He wins. I mean, it's beautiful to see, man. This is almost too perfect. Match made in heaven for all of these fighters right here. So don't bank on continued success like this. But this has got to be one of those feel-good moments for the legends of the sport. Am I right?
Oh, yeah, Derick, 100%, especially with the Angela Hill and the Michael Johnson, too, man. I feel like two fighters that have been overlooked and disgraced a little bit by their, not necessarily their peers, but like by the matchmakers and just throwing a bunch of shit their way. And even the universe, man, Michael Johnson catching a lot of heat and just like not sometimes things just don't unfold right. So it's good to see that two OG legends in the game actually got match made, like you said, pretty much in heaven.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there was a bunch of other fun fights here overall on the card. We did, the Philip Rowe, we didn't really talk about it much, man. Talk about a comeback victory against a Niko Price, who had been out for like 2 years, man. He put it on him. Had a comeback effort, too, because Niko Price came on late. But you know what Phil Rowe does, man. Too flashy, too technical of a striker. Big wins across the board, man. Shout out to Francis Marshall, Yasmin Haregui, Natan Levy. And then that's just about all of the fights right there. So due to time constraints, let's jump straight into a rankings review, brother, and then we'll hop up out of here. Let's get it. All right, my man, the conversation is going to be very simple here. I promised you we're going to talk about Roman Dolidze because he is the new player in the middleweight top 10 division, which is all of a sudden wide open now that Alex Paeta is the champion, and Glover Teixeira says it is only inevitable that Alex Paeta moves up to 205 pounds, right? So if this is going to be a short stint for him, who's to say Adesanya can't just get the belt back and then go back on the same run that he was on before? Like, who's to say? But at the same time, like I said, it's open. So if Paeta loses the belt and somebody else gets it and it makes it a tougher matchup, these are all questions we have to answer. What I just want to pull up really quickly is the middleweight top 10 division. And what you can see right here, the middleweights, Alex Paeta champion. You have number one. So you have Adesanya, Whitaker, Cannonier, Marvin Vettori, Brunson, Costa, Strickland. This is where Roman Dolidze will be inserted, number 8, right? So if we're looking at even just these top 3 guys here, Roman Dolidze, it is not out of the question that he could defeat a Sean Strickland, Apollo Costa, or a Derick Brunson. Am I correct?
Yeah. That definitely. I mean, the Derick Brunson, I think, will probably be the hardest. And Sean Strickland for the striking, it's going to be an interesting battle. But I agree, those 3 right there, Sean Strickland, Paulo Costa, Derick Brunson, those are going to be the ones we're aiming for a Roman Dolidze. Other than that, I think it's going to be a hard road, but I'd really like, especially even that Paulo Costa match. That'll be a really good fight, especially power-wise. Seeing the power matchup those two will have will be very interesting.
And I would love to see what a Marvin Vettori versus a Roman Dolidze looks like, a wrestler versus a grappler right there. Jared Cannonier, really, all he has is the striking and the takedown defense. I think Roman Dolidze could definitely make it happen here. Robert Whitaker, these 3 is where it gets really these 2, because I think the Alex Paeta, like I said, this is open. If you can't get cracked by the left hand and you can work that grappling, if Israel Adesanya can put it on you in grappling, I mean, come on, brother. That's all I'm going to say right there. But the whole entire point of this rankings review is simple. You have that new player, right, come on down, and Roman Dolidze. These are the guys that are lined up here. If you had to make a prediction, does Roman Dolidze taste UFC gold in the next year or 2?
Year or 2, I'm going to say no. I think just with how long it takes for some of these guys to really keep fighting. I mean, we haven't seen Paulo Costa fight in, well, I guess it's been a couple months. But there's some ones that it takes a while for, all these things to be shooken up. So 5 years, 3 years, maybe. But 1 to 2, I don't know. What about you?
I will make a prediction that Roman Dolidze will either have fought for a championship or will become a champion in the next 2 to 3 years. The man does not have that much time on his plate. He's 34 years old. So time is of the essence right here. You're a little bit past your prime, but this man is, I mean, he's a beast, bro. This dude's only loss is to Trevin Giles, and that was a close loss in terms of that decision right there. So with that being said, man, let's move on from the rankings review. Fun episode, fun fights. And we have 2 cards remaining until the end of the year. And let's not forget, folks, at the end of the day, there's one thing that's on the line. And it's that bad boy right there. So me and my man AJ, we're fighting for the Bloody Water Podcast 2022 Undisputed Championship. It's only fitting that it's under the Christmas tree, right? It's under the Christmas tree because it's this December time, holiday season, strap season. You know what time it is. So folks, with that being said, I'm going to ask you one more time. If you have not subscribed, you should absolutely subscribe right now. Be a member, be a supporting member of this program. I appreciate you. I know my man AJ appreciates you. Do apologize. I know we had a little bit of noise disruptions here in the background, but this is the cost of doing business. We do episodes for you 2 times a week, every single week for the vast majority of the year. We're giving it to you. Sometimes you got to deal with a little extra background noise. It's all good. AJ, give some people some last words and let's hop up out of here, brother.
Man, biggest thing, like Derick said, man, go make sure you're sharing it with your friends, subscribing. You see that gold under the tree, and sure, there's a 3-fight differential with 2 fight cards to make it up. So we're gonna be fighting literally tooth and nail to the end. Make sure you're joining us. Make sure you're staying along. Make sure you're winning some money, putting some green in your pocket for the holiday season. We know it'll help you out, but other than that, man, make sure you share with your friends. Subscribe. You already know the deal. Trying to hit that 500 number. It's close. It's closer than a lot of people think. I was talking to my girl about it, and she was like, "Oh, that's a big milestone." I was like, "Yeah, but we can hit that. We can hit that all day with the support of you, fine folks. You know we love you. You know we appreciate you, and it's gonna be a fun one coming up soon."
100%. I couldn't have said it better myself. So with that being said, bloodywaterpodcast.com. That's the home, the hub, your favorite fighter's favorite fight show. What can we say? That's it for us this week, folks. Until next time. Peace.